Welcome to Are You Quizzing Me? I am Vineet Nair with my co-host Aditya Kashyap. This is a quizzing trivia podcast show. Join us as we dive deep into history, science, pop culture, and so much more. Let's get quizzing.
And we're back for episode number 80. That's 80 of Are You Quizzing Me, your favorite quizzing and trivia podcast show. Aditya and I are back for another round of quizzing on this 80th episode of our podcast, which frankly, every milestone just makes me more happy that we've now reached 80. So let's get on with the show. And starting us off with the audience question. This is the question I ask at the beginning of the episode, the answer to which I give you at the end of it. This is an India-specific question. Madhya Pradesh is the biggest tendu leaf producing state of India. Tendu leaves being the leaves of Diospyros melanoxylon. The average annual production of tendu leaves in Madhya Pradesh is around 25 lakh standard bags, which is nearly 25% of the total tendu leaves production of the country. These leaves are used to make something very unhealthy, but unfortunately very common in India. What are these tendu leaves used to make? I will answer this question at the end of the episode. And until then, you can try and work it out what the answer to it is. Let me start off this episode with a question to Aditya. Aditya, are you ready?
Hit me.
Okay. So, X acted in 28 Hollywood movies during a period of 14 years, with 19 of these movies coming in the last 5 years of his career. He used a stage name while acting, and we know him better through his birth name. Prior to his acting career, he was engaged in the jute trade. Having lived a fascinating life, he holds many records to his name, one of which was equaled just this month and was much celebrated in the Indian media. For our audience, we are recording this in August of 2024, for context in case you're listening to this much later. So, he holds many records, and one of which was equaled just this month and was much celebrated in the Indian media. Can you guess who X is?
The record was equaled in August 2024
Yes.
and was celebrated in Indian media. I was tempted to say something to do with World Cup, so probably a former cricketer turned actor. But I don't think India equaled anybody's record with the World Cup win recently. So that doesn't make sense. What has Indian media celebrated recently? Oh, that's a tricky one. It feels like the media doesn't quite often celebrate stuff. Okay. You also said was in the film industry for 19 years and most of the films within the last 14 years of his career.
5 years of his career.
Sorry, last 5 years of his career. So, short career, a lot of films in the last 5 years. We know this person by their birth name.
Yes.
Even though they had a stage name.
In Hollywood, he used a stage name.
Short career, very much loaded towards the end. Again, sounds like a Bruce Lee thing. But
No.
Bruce Lee, I think, is the name. Yeah. I don't think there's any birth name versus stage name situation over there. Are these movies famous? Do we know this person as an actor or do we know them for some other part of their career?
We know them for something else.
Can I get a hint as to what that is?
What's going on in August of 2024 that's captured everybody's attention?
I was thinking Olympics, but what did we do that was Olympics related?
There was a record that he held that was, let me put it this way, maybe it'll make it easier for you. There was a record that he held which was equaled by an Indian.
There's an Olympic record that was equaled by an Indian recently.
I said there was a record that he held which was equaled by an Indian.
Oh, wait, you're not talking about Olympics then?
Yes, we are talking about the Olympics, but it's not an Olympic record. I mean, like, not technically an Olympic record. It's a record.
Olympic adjacent. Something to do with Olympics, but not an official Olympic record.
Yeah, I mean, like, I don't think you would see the IOC, putting this in their record books, but India definitely does.
Interesting. No, wow, I'm so blank. Could I get a clue, perhaps? That would help me.
Okay, so the person who equaled this record was going to be the flag bearer at the closing ceremony. But now that has changed. After their performance, the person who equaled the record was fingered to be the flag bearer for the Indian contingent in the closing ceremony. However, now that has changed after a much more impactful, I wouldn't say impactful, but at least among sports people and the sporting authorities of India, they find that another person's contribution kind of overshined hers. So now that another person is going to be the flag bearer, but this person, the person who equaled the record, was going to be the flag bearer for the closing ceremony.
Interesting. Somebody was going to be the flag bearer for the closing ceremony. No, wow. You have me completely stumped right now.
So I will now tell you the person's name and let me see if you can tell me who the original record holder was.
Okay.
So the person who equaled the record this month was Manu Bhakar.
Manu Bhakar won 2 bronze medals.
So what record was she touted as having equal? Actually, most of the Indian media reported this slightly incorrectly. They touted her as the first person from an Indian Olympic contingent to win more than one medal at the same Olympics.
Oh, got it. Okay. All right. So it was an Indian record. See, that's where he threw me off because I was assuming it is some record across the world that Manu Bhakar somehow equaled. Okay. So it was an Indian record.
No.
Got it.
Yes. But as I mentioned, the media has incorrectly assumed her to be the first person to do so, when in fact she was not.
Oh, interesting. I don't think it can be any of India's hockey players who won this.
I have, I believe, mentioned this person on the podcast before, but it was a long time ago.
I was recently thinking about how we have spoken about so many things that has become a useless hint at this point. Telling me that we have spoken about this person or this topic before is practically just not a hint anymore. Some Indian sportsperson went into films, had a stage name, but better known by their birth name, won 2 medals at the Olympics. And the first person to do so.
Yes.
First Indian person to do so.
First person from the Indian contingent.
I like that interesting correction of my phrasing, let's say. So not an Indian person, but first person from an Indian contingent. Okay, so then by that logic, there's a person from the Indian contingent who won a medal in the 1904 Olympics. For my life, I can't remember this person. And this was a track and field person. I think must be a white guy, must be a British athlete. And he was the first person from the Indian contingent to win a medal. I think he won 2 medals then. So, is this the person you're talking about?
So, yes, you've got the right person. Wrong Olympics. It was the 1900 Olympics. It was the 1900 Summer Olympics.
Okay.
He won a silver, I believe, 2 silvers. One in the 200 meters and the other in the 200 meters hurdles.
Right, yeah.
So, this man is Norman Pritchard.
We have spoken about Norman Pritchard.
Yes, we have spoken about Norman Pritchard. Yes. So Norman Pritchard was born in Calcutta and he was part of the British Indian contingent. And so the IOC records his medals as those for India, not for Great Britain. So technically, he's the first person from an Indian contingent to win more than one medal at a single Olympics. The thing is, he also holds a lot of other records which many people are not aware of. He scored the first hat trick in Indian football in 1899.
Okay.
He was the first Indian Olympian and the first person from an Asian country to win silver medals in both the 200 meters and 200 meter hurdles. He was also the first Olympian to act on the stage in England, where he was a big name, and on the big screen in silent Hollywood movies under the screen name Norman Trevor.
Interesting.
So that was Norman Pritchard. Now, on the subject of records, and since we are with the Olympics right now, I do have a couple of questions for the Olympics coming up. I will, after your question, be focusing on Olympic or rather sports records. So a little teaser for you. hit me with your question, and I'll follow up with these records questions.
Interesting that you do bring up the Olympics, because I guess we are all immersed in Olympics lore and Olympics trivia right now. And I must admit that this question is literally just an excuse. And I don't think I've ever made this recommendation before, but this is a pop culture recommendation. And I will tell you exactly what it is after the question. For people to go read a Wikipedia article. There is a specific Wikipedia article that I want people to go read. Because I swear, Vineet, I have never laughed so hard while reading a Wikipedia article in my life. I don't think I've ever laughed while reading a Wikipedia article before, but I laughed multiple times and really hard while reading this particular article. So just an excuse to please do yourself the biggest favor ever and go read this article. But let me ask the question first without hyping it up a little bit too much. So we are at the 1904 Olympics, Vineet, and I guess that's as good a segue as we're going to get.
Okay.
There was an event in which a gentleman by the name of Frederick Lorz was awarded the winning position, the winning title, and later was rescinded of that title once it was made apparent that Frederick had cheated. It had even reached the stage where Alice Roosevelt, daughter of then President Teddy Roosevelt, recurring fixture of our podcast at this point, Alice Roosevelt, daughter of Theodore Roosevelt, had a photograph taken with Alice Roosevelt and who had already placed a wreath upon Lorz's head, which, by the way, side note, is tradition that needs to make a comeback. They should stop giving out medals and just put wreaths. I think it would look a lot cooler. But anyway, so she had placed a wreath upon Lorz's head, and just then spectators and some officials of that sport came in and declared that Lorz had cheated, and Lorz immediately accepted that he had cheated. Can you tell me which event this was or how he had cheated? And I repeat once more, honestly, just an excuse to go read this article. But please take a guess as to which event did Frederick Lorz cheat at.
Was this the marathon?
Very good. Yeah, very quick answer. He cheated at the marathon. You want to take a guess as to how he cheated at the marathon?
I think he drove halfway through or something like that, or he joined halfway.
Lorz started the race with the rest of the contingent, but after a few miles, he started suffering cramps and wanted to drop out of the race after 9 miles. So he hitched a ride back to the stadium in a car. He did not try to pretend that he was still racing because he was waving at spectators and runners while taking the ride back to the stadium. So it's just that the car broke down at the 19th mile. So he re-entered the race and jogged across the finish line. At this point, they declared him a winner.
Oh, God.
And Lorz happily went along with the farce till somebody came and confronted him. And as soon as he was confronted, Lorz accepted that yes, he had taken a car ride through for more than half of the race. And he claimed he was playing a practical joke. So initially they tried to ban him for life. Then they removed that ban for lifetime ban and made it like a 6-month ban or something. And he went on to actually win the 1905 Boston Marathon. So Lorz recovered from this.
Oh, nice.
Now, you would think that this was the funniest thing that happened. And I must admit that a lot of it is slightly disturbing also. But given that it's been more than 100 years, I think we can afford to laugh at it. There were multiple other people who went through absolutely bonkers things, okay? And I'm going to give you a quick summary, but please go read about all of these people. There was a Cuban postman by the name of Andarin Carvajal. I'm hoping I got the pronunciation somewhat correct, who had also wanted to participate in the marathon, and he arrived at the very last minute. Why do you think he arrived at the very last minute, Vineet? This, by the way, was being conducted in St. Louis in the US. So why did the Cuban postman arrive really late? It sounds like the setup for a riddle.
Yeah, I know. My first instinct is to say that he was delivering post, but he can't be. I mean, like, it was in St. Louis, which I'm guessing in the US, and he's from Cuba.
If it was this obvious, it would not make it a fun piece of trivia. So here's what he did. So he actually came to New Orleans in Louisiana before he reached St. Louis, and he lost all his money gambling. So he had to hitchhike all the way to St. Louis to participate in the marathon. And he barely made it in time.
Oh, God.
So he had no time to change out of his clothes to enter the marathon race. So he started running in whatever clothes he was wearing. Now, this also led to the very interesting circumstance that poor Antharin, or I guess depends on whether you consider him poor or not, had not eaten in 40 hours. So he saw a spectator eating 2 peaches.
God.
And he asked the spectator if he can borrow the peaches. The spectator said no. And Anthony took the peaches and ran away anyways because he was participating in the marathon. He stole spectators' peaches and ran away. And this did not suffice. He was still hungry. So at some point he ran past an orchard. He plucked an apple from there, or he took an apple that was lying around, I guess, and he started eating it. Turns out the apple was spoiled, so he got cramps, or he had stomach issues. So he sat down and he took a nap in the middle of his race. It was a literal nap that he took in the middle of a race. And despite this, guess as to what position did Andarin Karaval end the race at?
Oh God. Please don't tell me it's a medal position.
Almost there, because he came in at the fourth place. Yes, exactly. He came in at the fourth place after taking a nap, after having stolen peaches, and after having eaten a random apple lying around in an orchard and suffering stomach cramps because of it. He came in at the fourth place. And the last one that I'm going to tell you, the rest of it is also bonkers hilarious. But the last piece of trivia about 1904 marathon is that there were 2 favorites. It was the first time there were, I believe, 2 black athletes participating in a track and field event at the Olympics. These were South African athletes by the names of Len Tauanye and Jan Manciani. Apologies for the terrible pronunciation.
I'm guessing it's Jan because they're Dutch.
Possibly, yeah. Jan Manciani and Len Taunyane. Len finished 9th and Jan, or Jan, however it is pronounced, finished 12th. This was a disappointment because many observers were sure that Len could have done better, was a favorite to win in fact, but didn't win. Vineet, guess why? Why did Len not win this stupid race?
At this point, I don't even want to guess. Just tell me what. I don't think my imagination can match reality.
It won't. I'll tell you why. Because he was chased nearly a mile off course by wild dogs. Wild dogs chased him off the course by more than a mile.
Oh God, you cannot make this up.
I don't even know.
How is this not a movie?
Yes,
how is this not a movie?
This needs to be such a movie.
You need to show this from the viewpoint of some hapless fellow who's organizing the marathon, and then things just keep going bad to worse.
Oh, I'm sorry, I have to stop you there, because the guy who organized this marathon was the craziest of them all.
Oh God.
In a marathon, which this was not science that was not known then, this was basic human existence. People knew that you needed water points along the way.
Yeah.
This particular gentleman wanted to conduct experiments on dehydration on the human being, on the human body. So he used only one water point, which was not even along the way, which was off the track somewhere. So you had to get off the track by a significant distance to go get water. And this was by choice, because this man wanted to conduct an experiment during the marathon in the Olympics as to whether the human body can deal with dehydration on a hot day. And this was done during, by the way, the hot hours of the day also, which is also very unlike marathons in general.
Oh my
so
God.
You cannot sympathize with anybody. Everybody is just absolutely insane in the story, or went through insane circumstances. This is the most hilarious thing ever. Please go read about the 1904 Olympics men's marathon.
I'm modifying my, storyline. So it's not going for movies focus should not be the hapless person who's conducting the marathon. It should be the hapless assistant of the guy running the marathon. He's trying to keep his boss in line, and at the same time things just go from bad to worse. Anybody make this a movie.
And I have only covered just the few tidbits from it that I could manage to fit into this podcast. I deeply, deeply recommend please going and reading this entire article. This is my first pop culture recommendation of the day. Whew, okay, after that marathon of a question, Vineet, I hand the baton back to you.
Yes. So if you are somebody who's watching the Olympics, you may have seen records being broken and a lot of other things being broken. So I've got a couple of questions which are based on records, right? So I'll tell you the name of a person,
And I will tell you what type of record, like whether it's an Olympic record or whether it's a world record, right? You have to try and guess what the record is. And these are like serious records. These are not like funny records, like most number of shits taken during a marathon or anything like that. But okay. First name on the list is Sergey Bubka, and this is like a world. He's got a record that mostly deals with world championships and world records, not the Olympics. So what is the record set by Sergey Bubka, which is very unlikely to be broken anytime soon, but Armando Duplantis is quite close to doing something. I mean, like not even halfway, but if there's somebody, probably he can do it.
Bubka sounds very familiar. This is I'm either thinking a long jump athlete or a pole vault athlete. It's one of those events.
Quizzes from the 90s will remember Sergey Bubka because he was a staple question during the 90s.
So, I think the name sounds familiar because did he hold the world record for a very long time or something like that?
Something very similar.
Which sport was it? This was the pole vault or the...
This is the pole vault. Hence, I gave the example of Armando Duplantis, or Mando Duplantis as people call him.
Right. He held the world record for the longest time. Doesn't sound right because I'm sure there have been longer world records.
Yes. Bob Beamon comes to mind. His long jump record, I think, went on for 30 years or something.
35 years, I believe. I also saw this recently. I actually saw the attempt itself. But did he gain the world record multiple times? Like, did he get the world record and then get it again after a while and then get it again after, like, did he lose it and get it back, lose it and get it back?
I will give it to you. Sergey Bubka holds the world record for breaking the world record in sports or athletics the most number of times.
Oh, okay. Did he break his own record? I was initially implying that he broke somebody else's record.
He broke his own record, he broke other people's records, and he did it a total of 35 times.
Ooh.
Between 1984 and 1994.
Wow. Okay.
So during the course of his career, he set 17 outdoor and 18 indoor world records.
Wow. Okay.
Now, Armand Duplantis, if I'm not mistaken, is at 15, including both indoor and outdoor.
Okay.
And one of the reasons, at least, Duplantis does this, like, obviously, he can go much higher than 6.1 and whatnot, right? I mean, he clears the bar by a good margin. But he does it in increments because every time he breaks a record, he gets more money.
Ah, interesting. Very interesting. Okay. Smart man.
Okay. So the next one's an easy one. Michael Phelps, with regards to Olympic records.
Most number of golds?
Yes. So he holds the record of most Olympic medals ever at 28. Most gold medals, 23. Most individual gold medals in a single Olympics, that is 8 at the Beijing Games. And his dominance is unmatched by practically any other Olympian. The only active sports person who's anywhere close is Katie Ledecky from the US swim team with 14 medals. And she's nearing retirement, but she has said that she will not retire until she plays or until she participates in the next Olympics, which is to be held in the US.
Oh, okay.
But even if she matches Phelps' record of 8 medals in that Olympics, which is highly unlikely, she would still only land at 22.
Right. Interesting.
Right? Okay. So the next name is again with regards to Olympic records, but not very well known name. The next two names are not very well known. So the first one is Larissa Latnina.
No, I don't even know what sport this is. So some clue would help.
So from the Soviet Union, and it was gymnastics.
Stripped of the most medals. Since it's the Soviet Union, I'm going to take that as a guess.
No, nothing like that.
Okay, so nothing that's unhappy. Okay. Is it like, because I know swimming does dominate in terms of number of medals. So is it like outside of swimming the most number of medals or something like that? Or like some specific other event?
Very close. She's the second highest medal winner overall. After Phelps, if Phelps is number 1 on the list, she's number 2. gymnastics, and she won 18 medals between 56 and 64.
That is why you said a currently active person in the previous question. Smart
Yes,
man.
Katie Ledecky,
Smart
yes,
man.
yeah.
Okay.
And not just that, because you have to look at people who have a chance of breaking Phelps's record, and those will be people who are currently active.
Yeah.
Right. So the last person on my list, again for Olympic records, is Isabel Werth.
Okay. No idea.
From Germany.
No idea what Isabel.
She's an equestrian.
Ooh.
She's an equestrian. So if you can just try and guess what kind of record she holds.
This is completely a wild guess. Most number of medals without winning a gold.
No.
I wonder who holds that. That would be an interesting record. Okay. No, yeah. Equestrian, again, a sport that I don't have any or rather much clue about. So help me out.
Okay, so my clue to you would be that she won her first Olympic medal in 1992, which is Barcelona. That's my clue to you. So that may kind of help you get to the answer.
Unified Germany, equestrian. Equestrians are not really limited by age, but I don't think it's the oldest Olympic record holder.
You hit upon a very good point when you mentioned that equestrians aren't limited by age like people from gymnastics or swimming and all.
Oh.
Right, so run with that. See where that takes you. She's currently 55.
55, so in 92 she would have been 23. 22, yeah. No idea. What is the catch here?
So the catch is, if you had been paying attention to the current Olympics, she's also won a medal now.
Oh.
So put that together and
okay.
see if you can get the answer.
Most Olympic games ever attended for any athlete.
No. I will give it to you. I will give it. You're close, but not right there.
Mm-hmm.
She holds the record for obviously most Olympic medals won by any equestrian athlete or by any German athlete, and is the first athlete to win a medal at 7 different Olympic Games editions.
Right, yeah. Right, that's what I actually wanted to say, but yeah, makes sense. Most medals won at different Olympics. 7. Hot damn, that is very impressive. Wow.
So now, this was not a question I was going to ask, but because that we have come to this, I am now going to ask you this question. I'm going to give you one more name, and I want you to try and guess the record. Franziska van Almsick from Germany for swimming. Olympic record, go.
Franziska van Almsick, never even heard the name.
I would suggest you go back in time in the same podcast. One of your failed guesses. I'm making this direct right now. Because when you said it, I was like, okay, I have to know who this person who holds this record is. So then I went and found it. This is the person who holds that record, and it was one of your failed guesses.
Was this most medals won without winning a gold medal?
Yes. So Franziska van Almsick has 10 Olympic medals, but none of them are gold. She's won only silver and bronze, making her the person with the highest number of medals, Olympic medals, who has never won a gold. So she participated in both. She was basically born in East Germany, and she participated in the Barcelona Olympics, and she was described as the swimmer who united a nation due to her status as the first big star of German reunification.
Okay. Well, no easier segue than this, because I'm still sticking to the Olympic theme. I guess this is unofficially the theme of the podcast today. And this time, the 19th century Olympics, and there was only one official Olympics which was conducted in the 19th century, which would be 1896, the Summer Olympics that happened in Athens. This was the revival of Olympics, and it was decided for obvious reasons that it would be done in Athens. So we are going to be talking about two American brothers by the name of Sumner Payne and John Payne, who were participating in the shooting events. They were fairly successful, won a few medals, and had a good run at the 1896 Summer Olympics. Post the Olympics, the brothers went back to their country, and in an unfortunate incident, Sumner Payne went home to find his wife in bed with his daughter's music teacher. So in a case of infidelity, his while he was off winning medals and participating in shooting events, his wife had cheated on him with their daughter's music teacher.
Okay.
To ward him off, he fired 4 shots at this guy. Obviously, now that is very ridiculous to have done this to somebody who's a Olympic level shooter. But I'll excuse him because Olympics were very new at that time, I guess. Why was he later, first he was briefly jailed, but later released? Why do you think Sumner Paine was released eventually?
Because I'm guessing they argued that because he was an Olympic shooter, he missed on purpose.
Oh, that is brilliant. Wow, I thought you would have to get there with some effort. Did you know this or was that a guess?
No. I did not know this. But because you mentioned that, that it was unwise of him to do as because of an Olympic level shooter, but that the Olympics were new at the time, I was like, okay, that would make a great excuse. Like, I missed on purpose. Look at my medals. I have proof. I must and crack shot.
That is exactly how it worked out, yeah. And he fired 4 shots at this particular gentleman who was sleeping with his wife, and he missed all of those shots, and he was briefly jailed and charged with assault and not with attempted murder. I don't know why, but anyways, he was charged with assault. But then the police realized that who he was and what he had done in his past life, I guess, and accepted that he must have missed on purpose. And hence he was released. Which I thought was
very nice, very nice.
I have to also qualify this trivia with another little piece of trivia. The Paine brothers actually won a bunch of the shooting events, and this goes to show how in the early Olympics they really cared about the amateurism. Like, it wasn't meant to be professional athletes. They were trying to get amateur athletes to come and do this. Both of them were not even specifically, or at least Sumner Paine was not there to participate in the Olympics. He was just in Europe at that point. He was working and traveling around in Europe. His brother had come over, and I don't know why both of them had guns. They were just carrying guns. I guess people just did that back then. So he's like,
the good old boys from the US, obviously they had guns.
Yeah, keeping that American flag flying high. They were in Europe, and his brother came over to participate, and he convinced Sumner. So John came over to Europe, and he convinced Sumner, who was in Paris at that time, to accompany him to Athens to go along with him and to participate in this new thing that is happening called the Olympics. And they both went there and they won a bunch of medals. I love the idea that you were just on a holiday somewhere and you're like, oh, you know what, this looks interesting. What are the Olympics?
It reminds me of the shooter from Turkey. Comes in with glasses, a t-shirt, and like one hand in a pocket, shoot and go home.
Yeah.
So that was a great question. I have another question, which is a very interesting trivia fact. I'm going to give you an exhaustive list. Again, this is Olympics related. I'm going to give you an exhaustive list.
Mm-hmm.
And I need you to tell me what the connect is.
Okay.
The second Olympics held in Paris and the 32nd Olympics held in Tokyo.
If I get this right, I'm going to be very impressed with myself.
Oh, I will be very impressed with you. The entire world will be impressed with you.
The only Olympics to have been held on non-leap years.
Oh, brilliant. Brilliant. So I was hoping that you wouldn't get that, but obviously you did. And so, yes, these are the only 2 Olympics not held during a leap year. Now, some people in our listening audience would be wondering, wait, Paris 1900 was the second Olympics. 1900 should be a leap year, correct? Because it came 4 years after 1896, which was a leap year. But in fact, it was not. Do you know why, Aditya? Obviously you do. I'm just being dramatic.
So interestingly enough, when I read this, I was quite blown away. That leap year is every 4 years, except every 100 years, but every 400 years, it is again a leap year, which is why 2000 was a leap year. But 1900, 1700 and 1800 would 1700, 1800, 1900 would not have been leap years. 1600 would have been the last 2-0 ending year with a leap year in it.
Exactly. Yeah. So if you want to know if a year is a leap year, divide it by 4. Unless that year has 2 zeros at the end, in which case you have to divide it by 400 to know if it's a leap year. So 1900 was not a leap year, and Tokyo was supposed to be held in 2020, which was a leap year, but because of some minor inconvenience, they decided to hold it the next year, 2021.
I don't know what was up in 2020. Like,
Yeah,
what was the
like,
inconvenience in
nothing.
2020?
It's just them being babies. Something about maintaining distance and whatnot. Yeah.
So, completely skips my mind. I have no idea what you're talking about.
Yes.
But okay, wow. Good question. And honestly, I'm going to say to myself, good crack, Aditya.
Yes, it was a great crack. It was a great crack. I had honestly thought I would have to give you a few more cool clues, but you got that right off the bat. Okay, very nice. Very well done. So, yours, I think next is the last question for this episode.
All right. Well, I had other questions, which makes me very excited for the next episode because I had questions I was really looking forward to asking, but it has turned out to be Olympics related. So I'm just going to ask Olympics related trivia.
Okay.
And by the way, due credit, I heard about a few of these when I was listening to some Olympics related podcasts, including the 99% Invisible, a podcast we have mentioned n number of times. So just consider this one more time. They did an Olympics related couple of episodes. So some of these trivia, I'm forgetting which ones now, but some of them were from that episode. So go check that out as well. But anyways, coming back to my piece of trivia, since you asked, I'm going to literally recreate your question in almost word-to-word format. Here's a list of 2 Olympics, and it's an exhaustive list.
Oh no!
And this is going to be much tougher than mine because it is a very, very obscure piece of trivia, I think.
Okay.
1900 Olympics, again the same one that you referred to.
Okay.
The second Olympics ever, which was, by the way, at the 1900 World Fair. So in case our listeners didn't know, when the Olympics started, nobody knew how to treat this and what the big deal about it was. So they tried to do it in conjunction with the World Fair. And if I'm not wrong, the 1900 Olympics, as opposed to the rest of the Olympics that have happened since then, was very long. It went on for a few months. And Olympics usually ended in 2 weeks. Anyway, so 1900 Olympics, which was held at the 1900 World Fair, is the first in that list. And the second in that list is the 1988 Seoul Olympics. So in 1988, the Olympics were in Seoul in South Korea. What was something that was common and exclusive only to these 2 Olympics?
Okay, so my first guess would be some sport which was only seen during the 1900 and the 88 Olympics.
Interesting. I wonder if there has been any Olympic sport that was only at 2 Olympics, that far apart.
Okay.
It isn't quite the case, no.
Okay, I thought maybe it was golf or something like that. Okay, so it's not the case. Okay. Aha. This Pierre de Coubertin was in person in Paris and they used his ashes in Seoul or something like that. I have no clue what you're talking about.
Interesting enough, you mentioned ashes, which is a very morbid, macabre kind of clue for this
Wait, what?
particular question. It isn't the ashes of Pierre de Coubertin at the 1988 Seoul Olympics, but it is ashes in some way, shape or form.
Something to do with the Olympic flame, Olympic torch?
Yeah. At the 1988 Olympics, it had something to do with the Olympic flame.
Wait, I don't remember. See, the problem is my memory of the Olympics starts from the 1992 Olympics. I still remember, like I was tiny. I was just 6 years old at the time, but I remember that guy, the archer, lighting the flame. That was one of the polished things I've ever seen in any Olympics. Nobody's even come close to that. I don't know what happened to the 88 Olympics.
So let's just say this is exactly that. This is the lighting of the cauldron, but at the 1988 Olympics, and it's not the same because in the 1900 Olympics, it was a different, let's say, root cause.
Okay.
In the 1988, it was the cauldron. And I'll give you this as a hint. If there was a young 6-year-old kid, the parents would be horrified that the kid happened to witness whatever they just witnessed.
The Olympic cauldron burnt down, or the Olympic rings got fire and burnt down, or something like that?
I would say worse than that.
Worse than that? Oh my God. Did somebody die?
Not somebody.
Something died, like something. Wait, did they burn down a stadium or something?
No, I just died, very literally died. So I'm not talking metaphorically died like a stadium burning down. Is
Wait,
it?
I'm guessing they killed some bird because the arrow was shot and they killed some bird.
No, there was no arrow being shot. It was literally, and this was a lovely moment because it was, I believe, the first ever South Korean medal winner, and he was old at this point, and he was the last person with the Olympic torch, and he went up to the cauldron to light it up. And unfortunately, what he sees in the cauldron are a bunch of doves that have just been released a while back as part of the opening ceremony.
Oh, God.
And they had trained for months, by the way, with these doves to make sure that they fly off in these patterns, but as doves do, as they are wont to, they went and landed wherever they wanted to. And some of them landed in the cauldron. Now, this man is standing up there on the podium with this Olympic torch and just alone, like he had no idea because he had been told specifically that he had to do this. And it's not like he could, I guess he could have chosen not to, but I can sympathize with him also at being on that stage at that level. He was just like, I guess I just have to do this now. And he went ahead and lit the cauldron, and a bunch of doves were killed immediately.
Oh,
I'm sorry for laughing. This is very sad. Any of those of our listeners who are animal lovers, I count myself as one of them, would be horrified at this. So it just happens to be one of those very dark humor kind of moments. So a bunch of doves had unknowingly landed in the cauldron and died.
Wait, he couldn't have said shoo? Like, he could just hold the torch and wave it for 2 seconds and they would fly off, right? Doves are not like crows or something. They'll fly off. Like, I've seen them fly off at the kind, like, if a door opens in slow motion, a dove will fly off. I've seen it in many John Woo movies.
Slow motion doves is a John Woo thing. But this is not the complete question, because I asked you 1988 and 1900. So 1988, that's what happened. What happened at the 1900 Olympics that makes this an exclusive list?
Okay, so I'm going to guess it's also another case of avicide, killing of birds.
Yes.
So, but then I'm guessing they would have used birds as the shooting targets or something like that?
Brilliant. Perfect crack. Yes. Live pigeons were used as targets in the shooting competition for the first and the only time at the games. And this was in the 1900 Olympics, as I mentioned. And that makes it part of a very sad list of 2 Olympics, thankfully only 2 Olympics where birds were knowingly killed at the games. Where in one case they were part of the shooting event, and in the other case this man just lit them on fire in the Olympic cauldron because he didn't know what else to do.
No, the second thing is so much worse. The South Korean guy is so much worse. Oh God, burnt feathers. God. So, moving on from that avicide, that's all the time we have for our regular questions. Let's go back to our audience question, which I had asked at the beginning of today's episode. Madhya Pradesh is the biggest tendu leaf producing state of India. Tendu leaves being the leaves of Diospyros melanoxylon. The average annual production is around 25 lakh standard bags, which is nearly 25% of the total tendu leaves production of the country. These leaves are used to make something very unhealthy, but unfortunately very common in India. What am I talking about, Aditya?
Tendu leaves. I made something which is very common. Is it pan?
No, but something in the same realm.
Because I actually don't know what the pan leaves are. Are they just called pan leaves? I also don't know.
They're betel leaves, yeah.
Oh, okay. Fair enough. In the same realm. Oh, then is it like your, I guess, beedi?
Yes. So these are used to make beedies. Now, beedies, for those who don't know, are like country cigarettes. They are much slimmer, thinner, and don't have very refined tobacco. They're wrapped in these tiny tendu leaves. They're very cheap and are a common smoking item in the rural parts of India. The wide-scale use of these tendu leaves is based on their enormous production, agreeable flavor, flexibility, resistance to decay, and capacity to retain fires. All of this may be true, but I would have to disagree with agreeable flavor. Having tried a couple of beedies in my time, I have to tell you, they are not anything close to having agreeable flavor. So that's the end of all the questions for today.
Oh, I will pause you there, Vineet, because I do have one last question. Let's not even call it a question. I'm just going to give it as a piece of trivia.
Okay.
Since we have done Olympics and we did very much this type of question, what would in 2028 Olympics and the 1900 Olympics, seems like it's a recurring feature, part of an exclusive list of 2 Olympics only.
Okay.
1900 Olympics and 2028. And this is basically an answer that you just gave. We'll rewind it back, as you said to me a while back. So I'll say it back to you.
Okay, now I have to remember what I said. Most of which is just, stream of thought, consciousness, blabber. What did I say? 1988, Arrow. We were talking about the Arrow, the fire. Then Pierre de Coubertin's Ashes.
You mentioned golf.
Oh, golf. Golf is going to be there in the 2020 Olympics.
No, not golf, but a sport that was last played at the 1900 Olympics is going to be there at the 2028 Olympics.
Cricket?
Cricket is making a comeback at the 2028 Olympics after 128 years.
Yeah, it makes sense now that Americans know what cricket is.
They finally figured it out, and I guess they are open to it. Take a guess as to who won the first and only ever Olympic medal so far, gold medal for cricket, Vineet.
I would say, I'll go with the obvious answer, which is probably not correct, but England?
Interestingly enough, Great Britain, because in Olympics, Great Britain participates under one flag. So it's going to be interesting as to for the Olympics what they're going to do. How are they going to manage the fact that their cricket teams are all currently playing under England and Wales and Ireland and Scotland. And for Olympics, they do it under the flag of Great Britain. So I have no idea. And the runner-up was France. And these were the only two teams participating. Nobody else participated.
So one match and they were done.
That's it. Great Britain won by 158 runs. And for whatever rules that were in place, if France had played for 5 minutes more, it would have been a draw or it would have been a tie. So they missed out on the chance of a shared gold medal there by 5 minutes. Interestingly enough, also, nobody was really keeping track of the scores or anything except one individual player who just managed to note it down on a piece of paper for his own keepsake. And that's how we still have a record of what happened at these Olympics in the cricket match. Because otherwise, nobody was planning to keep or at least keep it in a way to preserve it. So, India has a shot at more than one gold in 2028 at least.
Very nice, very nice.
All right.
Okay, so Aditya, what's your pop culture recommendation?
I will actually start with the sports theme, or rather I would stick to the sports theme, and I will recommend 2 movies. One is The Wrestler, a phenomenal movie. If you have, and I'm assuming some of you or a lot of you might have watched a Black Swan, check out The Wrestler. It almost feels like somehow a spiritual remake of the same theme. It talks about a lot of similar things and is also, interestingly enough, shot in a very similar way or has similar sort of parallels in terms of short sequences and shooting style. So check out The Wrestler, a very good movie. I would also recommend Fighter. But my favorite actually fighting movie is Warrior. I really, really like that movie. It's a movie I've seen it a few times actually. It's a movie that demands a rewatch, I would say.
And makes grown men cry.
It made me cry. You are right, Vineet. I cried copious amounts of tears because I was bawling by the end and don't want to give any spoilers, but it is an emotional journey you'll be taken through.
Yes.
And as most movies do end with, it's a showdown at the very end, and I already mentioned it's a fighting movie. It's a MMA fight movie, and you will probably not be able to guess who's going to win, which is rare for movies like this.
Yeah.
Or you'll be kept guessing till the very end. So watch Warrior, a phenomenal film, and also Fighter and Wrestler.
Let me just clarify that he's talking about the Hollywood movie Fighter, not the Indian movie Fighter.
Okay, yes, please. That is a very good qualification because I did watch the Indian movie Fighter, and for the most part, it was a painful watch. It was just a painful watch. It was terrible. But the Hollywood movie Fighter, great movie. Check it out. And I'm going to recommend a book and take a departure from sports, or well, you could call it the sports of elections, because this was a book by Akar Patel by the name of Our Hindu Rashtra. It talks about the rise of RSS and also about how the Indian elections have been shaped by, I guess, religious tones and overtones over the years. So it's an interesting book. Regardless of your political ideology, I would suggest checking it out. It does open up some avenues of history that at least I was not aware of. And for that reason, I guess I could recommend it. So these are my pop culture recommendations for the day. Vineet, what are yours?
So my recommendation for this week is actually just going to be one TV show which I fairly well enjoyed. but I enjoyed the fact that I found a review which described it so succinctly that it's one of my favorite review headlines ever. So this show was described as Broadchurch if it was written by Enid Blyton. So the show is A Good Girl's Guide to Murder on Netflix.
Okay, nice.
It stars Emma Myers, who you may remember as Jenna Ortega's Wednesday's best friend in the show Wednesday. She does a brilliant job. It's a fun little series, 6 episodes, quick watch. Fantastic. I would recommend it. It's a breezy watch. Nothing, I don't know if it'll ever be like a great TV show, but it's a really good TV show, which you can just enjoy on a sunny Sunday afternoon. So that's all the time we have for today's episode. Thank you all for listening in. We hope you enjoyed the show and learned something new. If you liked what you heard, please consider subscribing to our podcast and leaving us a review on your favorite podcast platform. It helps us reach a wider audience and allows more people to discover and enjoy the show. We'd also love to hear from you. Feedback, suggestions, even trivia. You can send us questions at our email ID, areyouquizzingme@gmail.com. Just make sure to put the name of the quizmaster in the subject line so we know who you want the question to be asked from. You can also reach us on Instagram at areyouquizzingme. We have a community on Reddit, a subreddit, r/areyouquizzingme. We appreciate your support. Look forward to sharing more episodes with you in the future. Thank you again for tuning in and have a great day.
See you guys next week.